Well, this is Doug Kemple, and today is October the 9th, 2020, and this is about my fourth or fifth time out on the with the GoPro camera, trying to get the right settings and the right angle and all that. Just taking a little bit of a ride around my hometown, trying to get this thing working, because I think it'd be a lot of fun to learn the ins and outs of the GoPro camera. And anyway, I'm using a setting here of it's called a field of view setting, and what it is a digital lens. So what I have is a relatively average field of view. It's not a fisheye, not an extreme wide angle. I tried a couple like that, and it's just there's too much curvature and everything. So I narrowed it down, and I'm using the what did I say? Narrow field of view. So, and I'm using a little bit of stabilization. Oh, here. This is where Kirk and Kevin Connor grew up years ago in the 50s. I don't want to get too far afield in my description here, my narration, but oh, there's where Mark Haynes grew up. These are all classmates and buddies of mine from years ago. And of course, here is the Traeger house to the left, where I actually spent my first few years from 1950 to maybe 53 with my grandparents and mother and Uncle Edgar. That house was built in '49, I believe. And we're getting up here to the top of the street. Today I'm going to go down downtown and just give kind of a quick look around for some of the classmates and people who have moved away from West Union, who have not been back in years. They might get a kick out of looking at the landscape here. But I was saying, as far as these settings, I've got this set to 24 frames per second, which is kind of a cinematic setting, and without getting too esoteric, he gives it more of a cinematic look than a video look. But I've just been trying a variety of settings, and anyway, we're heading downtown here. Off to the far right here is where the old Title gas station used to be. Of course, now it's a convenience store. And off over here to the left there, that's the library, which had been there for years. I don't think I've ever actually been in it since they remodeled it, because I've got the internet. Uh-oh, I should have said that. Anyway, that's the library. And there's the old Title station, which is now a convenience store. And as we get up here further, you'll see the Bethel Presbyterian Church. Oh, there's to the right here, a post office. There's the Bethel Presbyterian Church to the left, and off to the right is the post office. I played the organ in that church as a kid for services. There's my bank. And we've got the Baptist church there to the right. And to the left is the old, I think that was Burnham Wood Funeral Home to the left. There's the Baptist church. And up here, getting downtown here, there's a courthouse over there. Off to the right is the used to be the Avalon movie theater and the Eat Shop, and a few months ago the buildings collapsed, so they've been cleaning that all out. And this is North Vine Street, which seems like it should be Main Street, but it is the main street, but they call it North Vine Street. And kind of a beautiful day today. I think it's upper 70s. Definitely has a fall feel to it. A lot of little bugs out biting, and those little Japanese beetles are still biting, and some little black bugs. I think they call them no-see-ums. Now here is the bank to the right, and then this little orange place here is where the Traeger and Kemple law office used to be, my mother and grandfather's law office. Now it's the gray building right here, and over here is the old Johnny Rush drugstore on the corner. I don't know what it is now. Johnny Rush. And Sabo Jewelry has been there forever. Goes way back to I think it's probably one of the oldest jewelry stores anywhere. I'm not quite sure of the details, but I think it has the distinction of being one of the oldest jewelry stores in the state, and maybe even in the region. We got a Chinese restaurant over there. I never eat there, but they say it's pretty good. And here we have the Tapped Out, which is a popular restaurant. And down here at the very end on the left side is Gus and Tony's, which is another popular restaurant in town. I'm going to turn around here, head back up the street. Here's Gus and Tony's. And to the right here, the old Union newspaper building. And or is it this one? One of the two. And we'll go up past the that's the old Western Auto where I used to buy 45 records. Pratt's hardware store. And there's a water tower. Up here on the corner is a place that we affectionately call the Greasy Spoon. You go down there, it was a kind of a bar lounge down there. I think we played, Rubber Band played down there years ago, 50 plus years ago. On the corner, this would have been Brown's Clothing. I don't know what it is now. And we have a auto parts store here. And then over here to the left, you see the Courthouse Square. And we're getting up to where old Doc Walsh used to have his, I think it was right here, was his medical practice. Of course, that's 50 plus years ago. And then to the right is where the old Big Value supermarket was. And the hardware store. And then on the very I'm gonna swing around here. On the end of this block here to the right is where the Big Value grocery store used to be. My uncle and grandfather owned that for many, many years. And straight ahead is where I was born. I guess now it's called the Historical Society, this little building. Now going up here is the Courthouse Square. West Union is the county seat for Fayette County here in northeast Iowa. Off to the right where there's a big blank spot is where the jailhouse used to be, and my uncle was the sheriff, and my cousins and I spent many times a lot of time in the jailhouse, not as prisoners but as just little kids. And we used to, back in the 50s, you could befriend the boys, the guys in jail, and they'd mow the lawn over here. And in those days there was no concern about being abducted or assaulted or anything like that. Aunt Mabel, she fed the boys and said, you don't call them jailbirds, you call them the boys. Here's the old gazebo. It's not really the original gazebo, but it's the current gazebo. And then the fountain off to the left. On the corner there, well, I guess I won't get into detail about all these buildings that are no longer there, because it's really wouldn't have any interest to anyone who wasn't familiar with West Union. Off to the left here used to be the high school and the elementary school, which are long gone. You see where those trailers are. But that was where we went to high school. Catholic church there, straight ahead. For those of you who grew up in West Union, this is kind of superfluous to give all this detail, but there might be a few people unfamiliar that watch this, unfamiliar with the history of West Union. Here's where Tim and Terry's refreshment stand used to be. Little place for ice cream. I'm going to turn down this alley here. I call it Cat Alley because you usually see kitties down this alley. Off to the left is where the school, a lot of the swing sets and monkey bars and stuff used to be. But now there's a Casey's off to the left. Here's Highway 18 down here. Goes east and west. I've got this GoPro mounted to the top of my bike helmet, so that's why you're kind of getting a lot of head movement here, especially when it comes to crossing roads. And we'll turn up, what is this street? I don't even, we call it the Ocean Blacktop eventually. But off to the right is the current, is that elementary? It was elementary when we went there. Not even sure what it is now. Maybe junior high, I don't know. And Ron Sabo here lives off to the left right here. He's an avid biker and runs or owns the Sabo jewelry that we saw a few minutes ago. And he's great. He can fix anything. If you got a blown transistor or a tube that needs replacing, you just take it down there and he'll get you all fixed up. And he's quite an historian too, knows a lot about the history of West Union. Okay, we're going to head down this street. We're heading north right now, and we're going to go down to Cook Street. and then head up to the west, up Cook Street, and I'm going to point out a few places. That's the street I grew up on from about 53, 54, 55, I'm guessing, and made a lot of friends whom I'm still friends with. This house to the far left, this little one, is where I first saw color TV. That was the Amdals, and the next one here is Askelson's. And then the blue one here is where I grew up, on Cook Street. I'd love to go in there sometime and look around. And the next one, I think Mrs. Mab lived in there. And one of my best friends here, Ricky Carbon, grew up in this house with his mom and dad, Clarence and Irene, and sister Patsy. And these houses, I've never was quite sure who all lived some of these other houses. This next house up here with a for sale sign, that's where the Combs lived. Junior and Shirley and their two boys, Dave and Barry. Here's where the Chapmans lived, and Brad Chapman was one of our classmates, high school classmates. And there's a house there where Ricky and I picked the lady's flowers one time and ruined her flower garden. Of course, we were about 5, 6 years old, I guess. We had to march up there and apologize to her. And this house right here is where Mrs. Temple lived and gave piano lessons, and I took lessons from her for many, many years. She just recently passed away at 101 years old. This house is where Johnny Dessel grew up with his brother Jimmy. And this little house here to the right is where Charlene Schwartz lives now. She comes to the dances. I'm sure quite a few of you are familiar with Charlene. And now this brings us back to North Vine Street. We'll head north here. And since a lot of this is repetitious, you've seen this, I'll just speed this up until we get back to 103 Lincoln Drive. So that concludes this little tour of West Union and my experiments with the GoPro. So I'm going to post this on YouTube so some of the old classmates can kind of see what the old town looks like now. So over and out, and thanks for riding along with me.